Welcome to U.S. Defense Line Channel. HIMARS operations continue unabated. Thanks to the simultaneous operations on the southern and eastern fronts, explosions are echoing at many critical Russian military points. Everything is being done so that the Russian flag is not placed on the territory of Ukraine. Thanks to the operations launched, many regions were taken back. We mentioned that Ukrainian troops seriously damaged many critical points with the American HIMARS missile systems. This time, it was reported that Ukrainian troops hit 50 Russian convoys with 13 HIMARS missiles. Explosions echoed in the regions. It is known that the Russian troops have been having a hard time recently, especially in the Kherson region. Russian soldiers, whose logistics flow in the region is interrupted, can be besieged at any moment. Ukrainian armed forces, on the other hand, carried out 21 airstrikes with planes. It was reported that these attacks were carried out against the Russian forces, their weapons and military equipment, and anti-aircraft defense systems. Ukraine's rocket and artillery units also announced that they hit 2 ammunition depots, 5 points where the Russian forces, their weapons and military equipment, and 3 other important military targets. Ukraine's air defense forces also destroyed 10 Iranian-made Shahed-136 and Orlan unmanned aerial vehicles used by Russian forces to attack Ukrainian territory. Russia's losses are becoming irreparable, especially with the moves made by the Ukrainian units with missile systems in the last days. The losses of the Russian troops are reaching an irreversible figure. According to the breaking news, explosions were heard one after another both in the east and in the south. According to the statements, explosions echoed in Melitopol. Then, one after another, explosions took place in the Bakhmut and Kherson districts. It was reported that Russian warplanes were shot down and neutralized in the regions. While Russia's military equipment is destroyed on the one hand, logistics lines where Russia can send new ones are also hit. It is seen that the Ukrainian troops carried out their operations with very strategic moves. As the destruction of Russian military equipment and ammunition on the fronts is increased, the equipment needs of the Russian soldiers at the front will increase. But Ukraine is doing everything so that these equipments do not reach the regions. Especially in the south, Ukraine, which has hit critical Russian supply points both at sea and on land, can place a big siege on the Russian troops in the region. Soldiers who are cornered will find the solution to escape due to insufficient equipment. But Ukraine will not allow this either. Ukrainian troops are now hitting such points that they did not even give the Russian troops a chance to escape. Moreover, according to the breaking news, it was reported that the recordings of the Russian soldiers' conversations were revealed. It is stated that these Russian soldiers have a very difficult time responding to the artillery attacks of the Ukrainian forces, and they do not want to fight on the fronts, they want to flee. Also, it is known that Ukraine's artillery can split an armored vehicle in 2 with 1 hit. Moreover, the Russian troops are wondering what to do in response to this situation. Confused, the Russian troops are about to face casualties. It is also known that even in the last few weeks, Russia's armored vehicle loss is more than 40. Thereupon, Russia resorted to purchasing at least 100 tanks and infantry fighting vehicles from Belarus in recent weeks as a solution. It is also known that the 2 leaders agreed to form a joint union recently. In fact, it is thought that Belarus has started to get involved in the war. On the other hand, it was reported that Russia lead again. Russia's latest move is hard to understand. In a statement made a few days after Russia suspended the grain agreement, it was announced that Ukraine had given guarantees, and therefore they returned to the agreement. However, the new statements from Ukraine surprised me. Ukraine gave remarkable information on this subject. Russia's return to the deal was announced as a result of Russian President Vladimir Putin's assurances that Ukraine would not use the grain corridor for military purposes. Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs denied this claim. Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that Ukraine has never used the grain corridor for military purposes and does not plan to use it. He stated that Ukraine acted in accordance with the provisions of the grain agreement and did not make any new commitments other than the current agreement. Russia has also stated that if Ukraine violates its guarantees after returning to the agreement, Russia may withdraw from the agreement again. It is a surprising development that Russia joined the agreement a few days after leaving and that the guarantees it announced were denied by Ukraine. In addition, new statements came from Ukraine as the G20 summit approached. Ukraine has announced the conditions under which it will participate in the G20. G20 summit, which will take place in November 2022, will be in Bali, Indonesia this year. Indonesia wanted to bring Russia and Ukraine together, but this goal is very difficult to achieve. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky had a telephone conversation with President of Indonesia Joko Widodo. Zelensky explained what was discussed in the phone call on social media. Zelensky reported that they discussed the importance of continuing the grain initiative. He also announced that he was talking about the G20 summit. Despite Russia's attack on Ukrainian territory, Indonesia did not reject the invitation of Russian President Vladimir Putin to the summit, but invited Zelensky to the summit. In his statement, Putin announced that he had not yet decided on attending the summit. Zelensky, with his latest statements, announced that Ukraine would refuse to attend the G20 summit, which will be held in Indonesia on November 15 to 16 if Russian President Vladimir Putin attends. It is still unclear whether Ukraine or Russia will attend the G20 summit, but it is certain that both countries will not attend at the same time. While Ukraine continued to carry out attacks, Russian forces increased the attacks by 3 times. Last attacks of the Ukrainian forces and the places affected by these attacks were announced. Russian forces also reportedly intensified attacks. Russian forces significantly increased the attacks. Valery Zaluzhny, commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, made statements. Zaluzhny explained that the situation at the front was tense but under control. He explained that Russian forces increased the intensity of attacks in certain areas of the fronts up to 3 times. He reported that Russian forces carried out up to 80 attacks per day. In response, he praised the defense of the Ukrainian forces. A clear warning came from Ukraine about Iran, which supplies unmanned aerial vehicles to Russia. Ukraine wants Iran's weapons aid to Russia not to go unpunished. Now the statement came from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba. Kuleba shared on his social media that he showed part of the Iranian-made drone that hit Kiev during an online meeting with the G7 ministers. United States has also confirmed Iran's aid, although Iran has repeatedly denied aiding Russia. With this move of Kuleba, there is not much denial option for Iran. He also said in a statement that Iran should stop supplying Russia with weapons to attack Ukrainian territory or face tougher global pressure and consequences. Previously, several media outlets had reported that Iran will not only supply unmanned aerial vehicles to Russia this time, but also missiles. After that, a senior Iranian diplomat made a statement on this subject and denied the information that Iran was planning to send missiles to Russia and continued to deny Iran's arms supplies to Russia. No matter how Iran denies it, with the United States confirming it and sharing parts of Iranian-made drones in Ukraine, it is certain that not many countries will believe Iran. Because of this arms supply, Iran becomes a partner in Russia's attacks on Ukraine. After the massive Iranian-made drone attack in Ukraine, Iran announced that it was a partner in these attacks and their consequences. If Iran does not listen to Ukraine and stop supplying, sanctions may be imminent for Iran as well. In the following process, any step that countries will take will become more important than the previous one. Now, both countries must choose their decisions regarding the course of the war very carefully. If it continues to increase its success in Ukraine operations, it will achieve greater success. On the other hand, if Russia loses more logistics points, it will not be able to provide a supply flow to the regions. This will require the Russian forces at the front to face major defeats. In time, the course of the war will be shaped by the steps to be taken by the countries and the decisions they will make. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.